time did you give us?
5 minutos. Oh, 4:45 now. Okay, we're at 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to Geekcast. My name is Teddy. With me on this episode is Man in the Myth and Legend. You know him as JC.
Hey, everybody.
And we also got the man behind the magic, the one and only Joe Garcia. What's going on, Joe?
What's up, everybody? I feel refreshed and refocused now that me and JC are both back from vacation.
Yeah.
Y'all look a little bit more tan on this live stream. How
I
was
can't-
how was the
bit.
trip?
I can't tell.
Well,
Not on me.
I
How
feel
was the
like
trip, gentlemen?
it was real nice. I know there's a lot of rain in San Antonio, but the weather was really good in SPI for the week. Not a lot of people. And while I did have to do some remote work, I had the windows open. I could see the beach. So it was nice to look up from the monitor and then see the beach and just keep me relaxed. And it was okay.
Yeah.
That I was working from the beach, but it was still nice. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a good
And
time
we had a
too.
good time.
I had a good time too at the condo and was beating the family, destroyed them at the putt-putt course, the miniature golf course.
You gotta let the family win a little
No
bit,
mercy,
Joe.
man. No freaking
Yeah.
mercy, dude.
Man.
We went to some hermit crab races on Wednesday, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, for the kids,
Yeah.
they probably love that.
Oh, it was cool because they set up like a racetrack. You can kind of bet on who you think's going to win. They give you like little hotel dollars for the resort where it was at.
Nice.
So it was cool. It was like 4 races.
They should have
It was
named one of them
nice.
Turbo, like that little cartoon with the snail.
There's some interesting names like Crab Cake, Jack the Gripper.
Oh, nice.
You know,
Nice.
yeah, a lot of
So
fun.
how much are you in the hole from your snail
You
racing
don't really
crab
bet.
racing?
You just try and pick and put a slip in, and they put the odds on. Okay, well, this one will do 4-1, 10-1, whatever like that. So some of those crabs were fast, man. They're huge too. It's pretty crazy.
Dang.
So
man.
it was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, listen, we have a packed show, right? Because we are going to try and fit 2 movie reviews into this one episode. The first of which is going to be Space Jam: A New Legacy, which just dropped last week on HBO Max as well as in theaters, right? And then we've yet to talk about Black Widow, Marvel's latest release, because we've been waiting on one of our Geekcasters to check it out. He's not on the show just yet, but we're going to go ahead and talk about Black Widow
Because he's not
tonight.
here.
And then he can definitely give us his thoughts and opinions on the movie once we get him back. So shout out to Jericho, wherever you're at, probably at the grocery store, getting stuff for the baby. So,
Yep.
which
And
is quite
shout
all
out
right.
Mike, who is spending this week at the beach.
Oh,
by the way.
nice.
So,
Ooh.
and homeboy turns 40 on Saturday. So
Damn.
love you,
There
Mike.
you go, man.
Yeah.
Big 4-0. That's awesome, man.
He's joined the 40 and up over club now.
Yep.
We're going to get
Here we
his
go.
AARP card ready, JC.
Shut it. 10 more years for that. 10 more
Right.
years. Right?
All right, check it out. If you're watching the stream right now, we want to hear from you guys. We're going to start off the show by talking about Space Jam: A New Legacy, and we want to hear from you. Give us your overall thoughts about the movie, whether you liked it, whether you didn't like it. What was your favorite moment?
The end.
Anything at all. We want to hear from you guys. So
Oh my
jump into the
God.
chat right now. Give us your thoughts on Space Jam. We're going to read some of the comments, the best comments, all the comments really. But I'm nervous about this review because I already know where both of these guys are sitting right now for Space Jam. And so, yeah, I'm a little nervous right now. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Space Jam: A New Legacy, featuring one and only LeBron James.
Mhm.
JC, I'm going to start with you, man. Let us know your general thoughts, your overview, whether you went in with expectations, whether you just went in with no expectations at all, like your mindset going into it, and let us know what you think, man.
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying we're going to get 2 different viewpoints. We have Joe, whose kids are older, a little more grown up. You know,
Yep.
me, my kids are 7 and 4 years old. That's going to change our perspective a little bit. That and Joe's just a hater. But I kind of went in really just with an open mind about it. I knew this is going to be Space Jam for the new generation. And the kids loved it. And I think what was fun about it for me is that there hasn't been a whole lot of Looney Tunes in mainstream kids cartoons in a long time.
All right.
I mean, most of the stuff my kids are watching is Disney Junior, Nick Jr., the occasional Teen Titans Go on Cartoon Network. But you don't see a lot of like Bugs Bunny and Daffy and a lot of the cartoons I grew up with. So as someone who grew up with those cartoons, it was fun. The cartoon characters, Bugs and everyone, made the movie, definitely. LeBron, not so much. Uh, we can get into his performance later, but I did enjoy the kind of tour around the Warner Brothers serververse, as they called it. Happy to see my Animaniacs make a little cameo. Tina was very excited to have Marvin the Martian have a bigger role than the original Space Jam, even though he's getting crushed all the time because she loves Marvin. But the kids loved it. There's so much I could say that I really enjoyed about it. I like those little fourth wall references and breaking ground references, and we'll get into all that too. But I mean, it was just a fun movie. You kind of have to go in with an open mind about it, not expect Zack Snyder's Justice League out of every movie that you see. That's really wasn't the intended audience for this.
They can't all be that good, yeah.
They can't all be that good, and it was fun for the kids, and that I think that was the best part about it. The kids enjoyed it. They've watched it 3 times already, so thanks to HBO Max, they're going to watch it a lot for the next month, and they're counting us to go to McDonald's to get every single toy, and we're about halfway through all of those right now. So.
Awesome, man. We just got a like from the one and only James Lee, one of our top fans. And Tina's already in the chat. Says Marvin the Martian.
She loves Marvin. She's so excited to see him and K9 because you hardly ever see K9 anymore. So the fact that K9 made an appearance, and she was super excited.
That was pretty cool. Yeah. I like that a lot too. All right. I'm reluctant, but Joe, give us your general thoughts about the movie, man.
No, I was like Christina, JC's wife. I liked seeing Marvin the Martian and, his little dog K9 and his spaceship. It's called the Martian Maggot. So I like watching Marvin the Martian have some type of role in the new Space Jam film. And the good thing about this movie, which there was very few and far between good moments for me, were the Looney Tunes. The Looney Tunes actually were great when they were on screen. And you liked to see everybody again, and the reintroduction as far as, familiar faces that we're familiar with. Because that's the thing is we grew up watching Looney Tunes. However, this young generation of fan, this is probably going to be maybe one of their first introductions to the classic Looney Tunes, And I was talking to JC before we came on, and I was like, well, when you have the, Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, it's different with them because the Animaniacs, they kind of can go in any era because they deal with the topics of today. So if it's a child's first introduction to the Animaniacs, they're going to instantly love them because they're wacky, they're crazy, they have the song and dance, they do crazy things, they're funny. The Looney Tunes, however, are just those classic staples from yesteryear, and it's a different take now when you're taking a child like JC's kids. This is probably their first introduction to these characters, and they're probably going to say, oh, they were funny, and I like them. And to us, it's, reuniting with the familiar friend. And that's what I liked about Space Jam. I liked the Looney Tunes, and it was also fun to see what they were doing with the Warner Brother licenses. You had some introductions to, familiar faces that we know, like the Iron Giant. You had references to Harry Potter World, and Game of Thrones. You saw the dragon.
I knew it.
Yeah. So that stuff was fun, even Back to the Future, you had the font, and I think you saw the DeLorean out there as well. You saw the different characters that they have from, Warner Brothers there. And
Game of Thrones, the Matrix.
Matrix, yeah.
Best, funniest scenes in the whole movie.
And it was fun just to see
Batman '89. You had Batman and Joker, Jack Nicholson Joker.
Yeah.
You had Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin.
My God.
Oh,
You even had the Penguin. The Penguin was
Here's
in there.
Here's the one that surprised me. The Nun.
Oh,
from
yeah.
One of the most controversial movies ever released called The Nuns.
The Nuns.
Which you can't find anywhere because it's so out there and it caused so much protest and had the Catholic Church hating everybody.
Yeah,
it's so sacrilegious, but they slipped that cameo in there, and it's front and center right next to Mr. Freeze. I thought that was wow. I didn't think they would do it, but whoever was in charge of CGI snuck that in, and nobody looked it up.
Yeah. The other fun part was just seeing in the audience, when you're watching them play basketball, just the different various characters that you've seen in the background, jumping up and down. We saw the penguin, on the sidelines and whatnot. King Kong, it was fun to see all these characters just there taking in the game too as spectators, so that was fun. But unfortunately for me, where it fell flat was the story was horrid. The
The story was better than the first one. Yeah,
the,
story
the
was
first
better
one
out
wasn't
there.
that great either as far as the story and
No,
whatnot. But it didn't do really good at the box office. This one, it was bad, and the acting from the various NBA players was just cardboard. Same thing with LeBron James. He's just horrible as an actor. I mean, watching him out there, it was just awful, god awful. And then the algorithm that they had, the villain, Al G. I'm just like, oh my
Algorithm.
god, awful. It
Hey,
was horrible,
shout
horrible,
out
Don Cheetah was good, man.
Monty
horrible.
was good, but shout out Porky Pig for roasting his ass. How you called rhythm but have no,
I know a lot of people like that scene with Porky Pig rapping and all
Yeah.
that. It was just a real big reach for me. I'm just like, it
That's the
was,
fun
I
part about
guess, it's for the kids or whatever, for the kids, but I'm just like, they lost me, man. The story was just awful, awful. I'm glad I didn't have to go and sit through this at a theater because I probably would have got up and left 10 minutes in. I would have been done. It was bad. It
That's
was to
not
me.
my Bugs Bunny.
It was just as bad to me. It was up there with the Mario Brothers movies and some of the
Oh, come on.
other movies that are just the most horrible movies of all time. As far as the most horrid movies that I have ever watched, Space Jam: A New Legacy is right up there with the stinkers of the stinkers. I'm not the only one that felt like that. A lot of people did too. And our good friends over at the New York Post, and I quote,
Our good friends.
Space Jam: A New Legacy review.
Who
LeBron
do we
James
know over
film
there?
is an abomination.
Have you read some of their stories before, Joe?
I
I'm
have.
going to quote the Paste Pecani Sauce commercials here. New York City.
Horrid. Horrid.
It's-
The
it's-
reviews on Rotten Tomatoes were not much better. A lot of the
Neither
people,
were they for the original Space Jam.
and of course, but this one was
Okay.
just horrid. I mean, it was
Oh.
just horrible. At least with Michael Jordan, his acting was a little bit better than LeBron James. LeBron James
Yeah,
was just awful.
I could
Jericho
tell
says, "Tell us how you really feel."
Yeah.
Damn.
on the LeBron side from the acting, I could tell he felt a bit uncomfortable acting like an absent father. Because say what you want about his basketball and all this other stuff, as a father, he's a great father. He always has been. He's great with his kids. He's always supportive. The way he coaches his son's team and everything like that. So if his son was, into computers, I don't know if he really is or not, and developing games, wouldn't you be excited about that? If my son starts like developing a game at
Nah,
that age, I'm like, hey, it's
Bronny is not into developing games. He's into smoking weed.
Where is this
Right.
coming
I
from? How
don't
do you
He
know
had an
this
Insta.
stuff?
He was on Instagram. He was smoking weed.
it's
out of the
legal in
pipe.
California.
I
mean, can't be
know
like
he's
that.
allowed to, right?
Yeah, it's legal
He's
there.
a grown man. What are you doing, Joe?
Bronny can do what he wants. I'm just saying.
I
He's
saw
not
him
playing
drink a
video
beer
games.
one time.
He ain't playing
All
video
right, Joe.
games, man. He's
But
smoking
anyway,
weed.
LeBron whole basketball is life mindset. He's the guy that has fun in pregame warm-ups, mini dunk contests. Outside of it, he's great on social media. He's great with fans. The only time he gets real serious about basketball is during the playoffs. That's it. So the fact that he was acting the way he was kind of a reach for me, but I get it. It was the story. It wasn't as I didn't watch this movie for the story. I give a shit. I was waiting for everything else, just having fun with it.
Yeah, I couldn't have fun with it either, JC. It was just bad. Looney Tunes.
Lola running the Amazon obstacle course to become an Amazon herself. You can't tell me that wasn't a fun.
That
scene.
was pretty cool.
That was
Come
cool.
on.
I just didn't care for it, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you.
All
Didn't
right,
care for
all
it.
right, we gotta-
And my
we
kids are
gotta get off
older.
The negative train now.
No, I'm
and,
just saying my kids are older,
I'll
right?
talk
So my kids are
Yeah.
older. They're much older
your
than
kids are older.
JC's. They didn't care for it either. They're just like, oh man, this is bad. They were
Like I
cringy.
said, it's the age of our kids.
Yeah.
Mine enjoyed it, and it was fun. We were laughing about it and
Yeah.
everything.
Well, if you're under the age of 10, it's a win for you because you're a child. You're going to enjoy it. Has a lot of, comic relief, I guess you could say. The characters of your first introduction, you're going to find them appealing. Other than that, the story is just as cardboard as LeBron James acting. It's just bad.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. I gotta go jump in here now. So
Go for it, Ted.
my thoughts going in, I had no expectations going in, right? I didn't want to see the greatest movie ever. The trailers didn't really give me a whole lot to kind of take in or anything like that. So I was just like going in, open mind, no expectations. Let's see what happens, right? Um, and I'm just gonna say that for the most part, it was entertaining. Does everything they try and do work for me? No. They tried really, really hard to make a very like solid film, and I guess I'll give them like a credit for the effort, but I don't need as much as they were trying to give, if that makes any sense. Like LeBron James had an arc in this movie, right? Like Michael Jordan had zero arc in the original Space Jam. He was the same guy at the end as he was at the very beginning, and everything in between as well. Like Jordan barely has any emotions throughout the whole film. He's just serious, serious, competitive, serious. So
Yeah, but that
yeah,
convinced him to get back into playing basketball. Remember, that's how they spun it at the end of the original Space Jam. So
I I think it would have been the other way. It's fine.
I'm just kidding.
It's so I give them effort for trying to do some things. Don Cheadle, loved his performance. I'm like, you know what? It's villainy, cartoony enough. I'll go with it. It's all good. Loved all the Looney Tunes stuff. Loved all the references. Threw in some Rick and Morty in there. I'm
I was
down for
there for that.
that. That
Yeah.
was amazing. Going through like the world's DC and Gotham Metropolis.
Foghorn
Uh,
Leghorn, Game of
loved all
Thrones.
that stuff too. Yeah, absolutely. Some stuff was just funny, and it's not meant to be the funniest movie ever. It's just like it's cool. It's all gimmicky. The entire thing is gimmicky. I'd like the CG. I thought they did the characters, the cartoon characters, very well in sort of their 3D animation. That could have gone very bad. We all remember how the first Sonic turned out, right?
Yeah.
So they did really well with that.
It's the first
And
time these
then
characters have been 3D animated too, isn't it?
I think it is,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And then, like, they try to pull the heartstrings a little bit at certain points, the very end of the movie. We'll talk about in a little bit. And I'm like, all right, that's a worthy effort. I'm not all the way there with you, but I'm like, I get it. And so I know I'm not in the demographic for this movie, although you did throw in some like Clockwork Orange, some Matrix characters, Game of Thrones, all that's for me, right? Yeah. But we had my son and we had some neighborhood kids outside watching it on our inflatable screen, and they all liked it. They had a ball. So I'm just gonna say that overall, it was enjoyable. It's not elevating this genre or whatever this is.
It's not Oscar
I'm not gonna
worthy.
say it's definitely not, but it was just enjoyable. I'll just go that far.
Yeah, it was
We had some.
enjoyable. I enjoyed it when it ended. I said, "Oh, thank the maker. This
You've
thing
already
is
said that a
finally
couple of
over, man.
times. You gotta
Yes.
let me help
Over.
with your material.
Horrible.
Fine.
Horrible."
Let me help you out with your material, Joe. Brett's in the chat. He says we could just rename it Space Trash. Just saying.
It's horrible.
Jericho says Jericho. Shout out. He says he didn't like the whole basketball is life mindset. I mean, just because we're not NBA players, man. Like it's a different type of person. He says
Yeah,
it's
but
just
Tim
too
Duncan can turn it off.
cliche.
Same. So
Absolutely. Let's see. Jericho says his favorite part was the Metropolis scene. He doesn't know if anyone remembers the DC Looney Tunes crossovers.
I do.
Interesting. All right.
that was a fun scene, and that was kind of cool to see Lois and Jimmy Olsen and the whole Justice League show up there. It was a blast. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Tina also says people forget the original Space Jam got terrible reviews too. They're just fun kid movies. Yeah, I think that's all it is. Brett also says it would have been better if they would have brought in Don Cheadle's version of Captain Planet. Yes, that would have been amazing. That would have
Even
been
Captain
awesome.
Planet couldn't save this abomination, Ted.
All right, let's get into it a little bit. Listen, I understand that there is already like a large segment of people that will not like this movie because just anything LeBron does sort of turns to just rust.
right here. Yep.
And I understand where people come from because you may dislike it for a number of reasons, either the flopping or just the ego he's had it sometimes,
Mhm.
or just whatever, whining about foul calls. People have several reasons for a lot of things, right? I get it. I don't care. I don't care that he does those things. I can separate the NBA on the court athlete from the basketball player in the kids movie. I don't mind at all, especially because we beat him in 2014 and we beat him so bad he left Miami and ran back to Cleveland. So that's why I don't care. I let it go after that. If that's your reason because just LeBron's in it and that's why it's a bad movie, then I think you just need to not watch it ever.
No,
If you have that bias.
they had some zingers at LeBron's career too. You know, I mean, what are you trying to do? This isn't the Miami Heat. I mean, they made a reference to the Knicks for crying out loud. I mean, it's just a lot to it, you know. But I mean, if you want to get into what was better, let's look at the stat line. Michael Jordan was 22 for 22 at 44 points in a game winner. LeBron was 4 for 5, had a rebound, assist in a game winner. And the only thing that gave him more points was the fact that this was a style points game. So that's the only reason he got more points than MJ. So
can we talk about that? Like,
yeah.
I did like that they had this video game element to this whole competition, right? I'm like, oh, cool, that could be dope. But then me just being the general sports audience person in the crowd, I'm like, okay, we can't follow this at all. Like the first 3 quarters were like half hour each, and then the fourth quarter was like 2 minutes long, and nobody scored any points. I'm like, okay, just make it make a little bit of sense, right? Like no team scored at all between the end of the third and the last 10 seconds of the fourth. I'm like, why? What? Who thought of this? Who thought like that could happen? And I'm like, I don't know. You scored 1,000 points in the first 3 quarters, and then like 2 points.
It was just poor execution. Like it could have been something
weird.
It could have been better.
It's not a deal breaker. It's just weird.
It could have been
the real
better.
MVP of the game was Wile E. Coyote. If he doesn't bring out that freaking replicator machine, we don't get a close game. But he busted that out in the third quarter, and that just brought the Toon Squad back. So this is all, and congrats to him. He deserves it. Wile E. Coyote was the MVP of the Toon Squad. Yes, hands down.
MVP.
Straight up. Didn't have to say much either. So.
Yeah, no, I kind of like what you said, Ted. Like, you know, when you see the video game element, it kind of reminded you of, it could be an introduction of kind of like an NBA Jam kind of thing. That would be kind of dope, you know. That would be kind of dope. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah, it was like an NBA Jam, NBA Street kind of hybrid kind of thing, and
it just
I kind of hope they released that game.
It just kind of fell apart for me. Like it started going down. Like, hey, this could be pretty cool, you know, and then it just like the style points, and then all this other stuff. I'm just like, oh my god.
I don't mind that. I think though, like, listen, I'm not gonna tear this movie apart for like the small decisions. I'm just saying out loud that that part gets confusing, and it's not supposed to be like we don't need the whole rule book, but to keep people engaged, I think you
make it make sense.
You can't give 500 points on one basket or something. It's like
it was like watching an NBA All-Star game. They don't actually play serious until you get to the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
it was that one Olympics game where Team USA, the women's team, went up against like the 4-foot girls from like I forget which country it was, but it was like that, and it was weird. It was weird to have it so lopsided. Like make a 10-pointer. You make a 10-pointer, and they hit a few of those, or they jump from mid-court, make that a 20-pointer. Like, hey, listen, we can follow along that way.
So the MTV Rock and Jock basketball jam.
Please bring that back. That was the coolest ever.
You know, the movie kind of had semi-pro vibes where, you know, in semi-pro, what happens near the end of the movie? The guy, he gets up, leaves the bench of the San Antonio Spurs, and I'm going to go back with the Tropics. Yeah, we're going to win this one, you know? Same thing happens in Space Jam. I'm like, dude, are you serious? Y'all are so pressed for ideas. You're pulling the page out of semi-pro. Like, come on, dude.
Mid-game trades happen more often than you think.
I'm just like, no. I was just waiting for the bear to come out, honestly.
There you go.
That would have made it interesting.
I would have loved it if King Kong had slapped Don Cheadle when he made his King Kong.
I was waiting for King Kong to enter the game, you know, like, they need a sub or something. Here comes King Kong. I was like, that would have been dope to see him playing some ball on the court, but nope, he was just a spectator. So I was like, they had
Yeah.
all these licenses for all these characters. I'm like, you could have had them just even if they just made a quick 3 seconds or whatever, an appearance as somebody coming off the bench. That would have been cool to see.
Mhm.
I too was wondering, like, okay, let's get Iron Giant in here in the fourth
Or
quarter.
hell, Rick and Morty, you
Uh,
know?
that'd have been something. But yeah, just a few things, a few folks
Yeah.
from the stands or something that would have
Well,
helped out.
but before we put a rating on it, what was your favorite like Easter egg or I guess like Warner Brothers property that scene that you enjoyed the most in the movie?
Mm.
While you guys think, I'll say mine is definitely Granny and Speedy being in the Matrix. I
Okay.
thought that was so funny. The fact that Granny was Trinity and Speedy Gonzalez is the perfect spot. And shout out to Gabriel Iglesias. Wishing him a speedy recovery. He's fully vaccinated, but he caught COVID and
COVID.
canceled the rest
Yeah.
of his San Antonio shows. But
Get well
uh,
soon, man.
I went to see one of his stand-ups when he first started the month here, and he gave us a little preview of his Speedy Gonzalez, and it spot on. It was so good in the film. And I really hope he continues to be the voice of Speedy because he's perfect for it. I hope he does it the rest of his life. So,
Yeah.
because him as Speedy Gonzalez is just such great. It's just awesome.
It was a match made in heaven.
It was, yeah. But as he says, he could do the whole movie and just take half the pay. And for all we know, we could have the Looney Tunes voiced by Gabriel Iglesias going forward or something
There
like
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the DC stuff. So Metropolis, Gotham, and then Themyscira, right? Sending Lola through the gauntlet. I liked all that stuff, and even though LeBron's cartoon character was a little weird, I liked all those references going through it all, and I thought that was cool because that's me watching the DC cartoons growing up as a kid. Loved all that stuff, so I'll say that, and I'm also gonna throw in like I said earlier, the Bugs Bunny sort of self-sacrifice thing. That was dope. You didn't
That
have to
was
do that.
nice. That was really cool.
I really like that, and the fact that they did it as a surprise because nobody said like, "Hey, Bugs, you do this." He doesn't tell anybody like, "Hey, I'm gonna take one for the team." No pun intended. But the fact that he went off and did it on his own, not knowing what to expect at the end, not knowing how it would turn out for him, knowing that he's helping out LeBron and his family and all that, that's really cool. You don't have to do something like that in this type of movie, especially, right?
Right.
But the fact that you had this element in the story, again, I'm not in my head like, okay, that's a solid effort right there. It's not a terrible movie, in my opinion, because all of the thought, the details they put into the story, giving LeBron this arc. I thought the performances, like his son, was really good. Don Cheadle was great. LeBron's iffy for me, only not because he's a terrible actor, but that they gave him such a hardcore father strictness to him at the beginning. I'm like, it's a little bit of a letdown right there. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to push him that far. There's a reason why Toy Story got rewritten so much. It's because Woody was an a-hole first time they wrote it, and they're like, this isn't very kid friendly. I wonder why. It's because Woody's like berating all the other toys. So I kind of felt like that. It was a little bit of a I got a little taken back by it. I'm just like, okay, look, I get you're a dad, but you don't have to go that hard on your son who just wants to
Yeah.
make video games. I'll be pretty cool in most dads' eyes. So a little taken back by that part of the story. Like you could have, I'm not saying they should have, but I was a little taken back by that part. But I did like the arc, all the other story elements. Joe, what about you, man? Your favorite part?
My favorite part probably was the reference to Ready Player One. If you look at the Iron Giant when he's walking in, remember how they repaired the Iron Giant in Ready Player One? The same
Yeah.
battle damage that he had in Ready Player One, he had the same battle damage walking in when he
Oh
was
wow.
walking into the scene from Ready Player One. So I thought that was a pretty cool Easter egg for the fans of Ready Player One, the movie. So I like that reference. I thought that was pretty dope, And of course, looking at how they included the Harry Potter world. I thought that was funny, and also I like the references to Game of Thrones because we're all fan of Game of Thrones. So that was cool to see the dragon and the Frost King or whatever. That was pretty cool.
Most of the seasons of Game of Thrones, yeah.
Yeah, except for the last season, but yeah.
Foghorn Leghorn was the best part of that, by the way. Just throwing that out there. The fact that he was dressed up as what's her face.
Jericho's still in the chat. He says Bugs sacrificed himself after being alone for so many years. Yeah, that's deep, man. That's
his mission was getting his friends back, and he took advantage of that. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's deep. That's surprising as hell. And yeah, I was like, you got to give him credit for putting something like that into this movie. That's a big element right there.
Yeah, watching this film and watching how fun the Looney Tunes could be and all the licenses that Warner Brothers has. The Looney Tunes is due for a reboot. Like if they were to include that universe that they're in with all these licenses that they have, that would be a pretty dope show for the kids, especially with them being introduced to the Looney Tunes all over again and having this quirky world that they live in. And then, they could even introduce the Animaniacs from time to time, do a little crossover. That would be pretty funny, but who knows, who knows what the future holds for them.
It would be fun. I mean, maybe that'll be something they do like on HBO Max down the line. I mean, it could be a blast. The only Animaniacs holdup is the rights to Hulu because Steven Spielberg owns part of that too. So, but just have some fun with it. The Looney Tunes were fun for a reason. It was different. It was just slapstick humor at its core. Yeah. Obviously, for obvious reasons, we're not going to see Pepe Le Pew anymore. But so I liked everything else that we got, and it was fun. And but if there was one nitpick thing I'll think is that Lola Bunny has proclaimed so many times that she's a big fan of Manu Ginobili. She should have worn number 20 on the back of her jersey. That was a little disappointing because that's the main thing about her is she's a huge Manu Ginobili fan. So if she'd have worn number 20, that would have been perfect for her. But
I would have loved that, man.
Yeah, we didn't get to see a lot of Speedy Gonzalez though. He was in there briefly. It would have been pretty dope to see him with the larger role, but it is what it is.
We need to bring him back in his own cartoons again. Him and his cousin Slowpoke Rodriguez.
The ones that talk real slow.
Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna get that. That feels a little bit too edgy for this.
Okay.
For this day and age, that raises a few eyebrows.
There are 3 Mexicans sitting here. Were any of y'all ever offended by Speedy Gonzalez?
Oh hell no!
Then shut the hell up about that.
It was funny.
I'm not telling you that.
I know you're not. I'm calling out anyone else trying to cancel culture because most people trying to cancel Speedy are not of Mexican descent. So kiss my ass. All right, you're not. We're not offended. We can laugh at ourselves a bit. That's fun. Okay?
I'm just letting you know what studios will do. Just like how. Hey, listen. We talk about WWE all the time. They don't make the logical decisions at all, ever. And so, yeah, definitely.
Just go out there, have a wall, have Speedy run right over it, and boom, we're gonna laugh at it because it's funny.
Or break through the wall.
Or break through the wall. Yeah, it'll still be funny. That's the best part.
Yeah, so, that'd be fun. Yeah, we gotta get our reviews done here, Ted, because we gotta move on to Black Widow.
Yeah,
we absolutely do. So why don't we go ahead and drop our Geekcast rating? JC, you first, man.
It got a passing grade for me. It did what I expected it to do. 3 out of 5. It wasn't spectacular. A solid 70. You can move on to the next grade. And I think the way this movie ended, though, they're setting something up in the future. Maybe it's a Looney reboot. Maybe more potential Space Jam stuff down the line. But either way, as long as I would really hope the Looney Tunes get a reboot on their cartoon series for the new generation. And have it be just as fun as it was when we were kids.
Brett McLaughlin says he's signing off because we haven't talked about. He hasn't seen Black Widow yet, so we don't want to ruin it for him.
Yeah,
check it out, sir. I think you'll enjoy it, man. Check it out, and we got to talk about it when you get a chance, Brett. Have a good night, man.
Yeah. So 3.5 out of 5 for me. So
okay,
all right, Joe, you next, man.
This movie was bad, dude. I mean, even with all the stuff that we talked about with the Looney Tunes references, they could still not save this film. For me, it's going to get one of the lowest ratings that I've ever given on the Countdown City Geekcast. it's getting half a star from me, and I'm being generous.
Okay.
Oof.
Jericho gave it 3 out of 5. By the way.
Mm.
Yeah,
Y'all,
and
y'all are too
I'm
generous.
actually gonna follow suit with Jericho. This movie gets no, you know what? This movie gets a 3.5 for me. I talked about how they tried to do a lot with the story. I think the only thing I would honestly want them to change is a little bit less with the family, and however you feel like you can take out some minutes there that just are relying on the family and spend it more on the tunes. I think that would kind of help me raise it or elevate it a little bit more, because I felt like I just wanted more Looney Tunes content by the end of this. I'm just like, it was good, but I really wanted more, because especially since the whole arc for LeBron was to let his kid be himself, let the Looney Tunes be Looney, and that doesn't happen until the very kind of near the end of the film. So we start getting the good stuff, the good Looney content towards the end of the basketball game, and I could have used more of that. So 3.5 for me, and I already know JC's tabulated all this, and he's gonna tell us what we got.
2.625. Thanks to Joe destroying the curve here. With his
Oh God, Joe.
That's right where
We're,
it should
we're
be.
gonna make a note of all the other movies you put ahead of this going forward, and we're gonna be like, no, that's not it.
No, Wonder Woman 1984 was trash too. So
Oh my gosh. One thing in the end credits, though, you mentioned that. But I like to see that Bugs took a picture of Bill Murray on the golf course. One of the end credit pictures that scrolled up at the very end. I thought that was funny.
Absolutely.
I love those little things that they did. So
There you go. And if you're still in the chat, let us know what your thoughts are about Space Jam: A New Legacy. We want to hear from you guys. You could always send us a message if you're seeing this later on Facebook by clicking the send message button, or you can drop an email by reaching us on the contact page of our website at www.countdowntogeekcast.com. Now we're going to switch over to something a little different. We're going to talk about Marvel Studios' Black Widow, featuring one Scarlett Johansson. And again, we'll kind of start out the way we did with Space Jam. We're going to go around, talk about our general thoughts about this film, and then we can get into some spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and do like Brett and Jericho and pause this video, come back and check it out after you've seen it. But we want to hear from you. So if you got a chance to check out Black Widow, go ahead and drop in the comments your thoughts about it. What was your favorite moment? What didn't work for you? What did work for you? And let us know what you think. So we'll go ahead and go around, and we'll go ahead and start with JC again. JC, your overall thoughts about Black Widow.
I was happy to see a whole movie around Natasha, just because I love Scarlett Johansson so much. She's beautiful. But I know that they kind of gave this as like a final like last hurrah for her.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you haven't seen Endgame by now, sorry, spoiler, everybody.
Spoiler.
She dies. It's just how it happens. So, but I feel like they still could have put this movie out like back during Phase 3 when they were, maybe after Civil War. Or I think Civil War Phase 2 or 3. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, they could have put this out after Civil War and done something with it, but still, it was cool to kind of fill in a gap, if you will, about what exactly Natasha did from Civil War to Endgame. At least that first adventure of hers, how she was trying to stay off the grid. I thought it was good. The action there. I love Florence Pugh. I thought she was great. The fact that they made fun of Scarlett posing after everything is just a poser. What a poser, was really hilarious. And seeing, that there really kind of was, when you think about it, a Captain Russia, if you will. I know he was known as Red Guardian, but still, that thing was there that they were infiltrating, and I thought that was cool. But yeah, I feel like you could have done this in Phase 3, and it still would have been just as good. So, still, it was good. I mean, I didn't really have much expectations. Just wanted to see a good movie, and give us a lot of insight on exactly how the Widows are,
Yeah,
and how they're basically kidnapped and brainwashed. It's pretty intense stuff.
absolutely. Joe, what about you, sir? Your general thoughts about Black Widow?
General thoughts. I thought it was a solid film. A good send off for a beloved character, a favorite character, and not just for fans of the MCU, but also for a lot of impressionable young women all over the place. Here that have been introduced to the MCU, and they've known Natasha as a strong female role model for them. So I thought it was a strong send off for the character. Kind of her backstory, and then the introduction, of course, her sister Yelena. One of the things that I thought was really cool was the Red Guardian when he was in prison, and he's just making up stories and he's arm wrestling everybody. And that one guy says, "You could. What year was this when you were fighting Captain America?" In 83, 84. Well, he was still in ice. Are you calling me a liar? And he just breaks that guy's arm, and he's just like, "Oh," and he's all just playing around with him with his face. Oh, a big baby, this and that. That was funny. But one of the things that I did like that I didn't catch right away until I watched it the second time was somebody had pointed out to me that one of the tattoos that the Red Guardian has actually has the names Natasha and Yelena on it. So he loved the girls enough to get their names tattooed on his body. So even though he was like, "Oh, I was just playing a part," it was more than that to
Yeah,
him. Yeah.
it was still a family of four kind of thing that they
Yeah.
set up from the beginning.
And I thought that was a little touching Easter egg, that you look for it in the film, and then you're gonna not see it right away unless you pause it. But somebody did point it out, and I was like, "Hey, that is pretty cool," because that was the thing. At the core, it was all about family. Even though it might not be the family that you're born into, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if you're close with people, they become more than just friends. They are your family.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it was cool. I really did like Yelena. She was the comic relief in this movie, and she was just so funny to watch. Making fun of Scarlett Johansson's character Natasha. Oh, you're such a poser. And then even when she did the pose herself, she goes, "Oh, it's disgusting," you know.
Yeah. Ugh.
And then a part that I liked too from Yelena was the jacket part. She's like, "I've never bought any clothes from you before. This is the first item of clothing that I've gotten." And she goes, "Where did you get that? The army surplus?" It was a little vest with all a tactical vest
Pockets.
with little pockets. And then she's like, at the end, she's kind of wanting, the approval of her sister. And she's like, "Yeah, I like it. I like your vest. Yeah, I knew you did." So they had their sister moments there that I thought were pretty funny. And then seeing the Red Guardian reunite again with his fake wife, and them just kind of flirting with each other at the table in front of the kids. It kind of reminds you of when you're with your wife, the kids are there and they're like, "Ew," it's
Uh,
that kind of thing, which was pretty funny. But one thing that I was let down a little bit by was the Taskmaster. I wanted the Taskmaster to kind of have a bigger arc, a bigger role in the story, but it wasn't as big of a role as we were led on to believe in the trailers and whatnot. But as far as the story goes with the Taskmaster, I thought that was fine. They did a different spin on it, and that was okay. I was okay with that. It didn't really bother me. I just wanted to see a little bit more of the Taskmaster. It's my thing.
it was kind of obvious to Tina and I who the Taskmaster was when they
Yeah.
gave us the backstory. It was like, okay, well, we already know. We've seen enough of these to figure out who's who, right?
there you go.
Yeah. But it was dope to see all the moves that the Taskmaster could
Mhm.
mimic, all the fighting styles and all that. It's like, damn, that's pretty dope. They even mimic
The costume was great
costume.
too. Yeah, it was pretty spot on for a modern Taskmaster look.
Yeah, yeah.
It was solid.
Yeah,
It was
it
solid.
was.
I really liked it. I liked the film, and the way they brought everything to an end. An epic conclusion, the dramatic fight scene, which is something I hadn't seen before. You're fighting on this platform for all intents and purposes, almost like an aircraft carrier from Shield floating in the air. It blows up, and then you're just seeing this. And after that, what ensues is a big dramatic finale. The fight scene where, Natasha's falling down, and you see the Taskmaster following right behind. It's just a free fall. They're fighting on pieces of, the ship falling apart, breaking apart. To me, that was something I hadn't really seen before. So I was like, "Hey, this is pretty dope. I like this." And then you see her saving her sister, of course, and whatnot. But I was fine with the action. The movie that they had to offer was nonstop. It was just action packed. Great choreography, I thought, especially you, Ted. I know you would like this. The fighting scenes, I thought they were beautifully choreographed. As far as you being a fan of, dramatic fight scenes and breaking stuff down because you like watching martial arts movies. I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, and that's actually what I was going to start talking about first. Was my general thoughts about the movie were that it was entertaining almost from the very beginning to the
Yeah,
very end. Like whether it was the humor, whether it was the action, the drama, the banter between the family, or the banter between the sisters. There's so much to like about this film. Um, Special effects, like 90% of them were great. So I don't have any issues there either. So from start to finish, I was on the edge of my seat or just laughing my ass off because it was entertaining as hell. Choreography. This is some of the best fight choreography I've seen in a Marvel movie in a very, 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 very long time. It's been a while. It's just the hand to hand combat. It's the style. It's the raw grittiness of it. I believe some of the people behind the scenes sort of described it as being very raw, very messy type fighting because they're throwing each other into furniture, into the glass and the
to
doors.
the wall.
Like you feel, yeah, absolutely. You feel every hit,
Yeah,
every fall, every time they land on something. It's not just like a soft cushion or like whatever. It's like they're breaking four or five things on the way down. I remember the chase scene. It's very hard to come up with a very fresh take on a car chase scene because they've been doing car chase scenes for decades, right?
Mhm.
But this was highly again innovative and entertaining, especially when they're on this bike. They hit like a car or like a railing or something, and both Natasha and her sister like fly off it. Like, oh my god, that sucks. And then they just like GTA 5 kidnap somebody else's car and like drive off with it. Like
Yeah.
freaking awesome, right? um, it's refreshing in a movie to have this new relationship dynamic. We've had brothers before, Loki, Thor. We've had sort of soldiers on a battlefield type dynamics before, stuff like that. We've had obviously like relationships between characters before. We've never had a sister dynamic in a Marvel movie. And so this was refreshing because you have to take it to a certain level of being having a relatable relationship between two sisters without making it too corny, without making it too cheesy. And I think they killed it. I think they absolutely killed it. It was so good them ragging on one another. The banter between them was hysterical. Um, Absolutely loved it. It was just refreshing. It's new and absolutely loved it. We had some comments regarding the film that I wanted to call out real quick before we start getting into more spoiler territory. Will Pittman, top fan, friend of the show, says, "Loved the movie, disappointed on how they treated Taskmaster." I think there's a lot of people in that boat.
Mhm.
Alex Alpha said, "Good movie. I enjoyed it a lot." Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. Brett Culpepper says, "Watched it at the Mission Tiki Drive-In in Montclair. Tight
nice.
script."
Wow.
He said, "Tight script, great cast, awesome action, and byplay as a dysfunctional family, incredible music and locations. I'll be seeing it numerous times. Well done, sir." Fantastic, Brett. Appreciate the comment, sir. Charlie says, "Great movie, terrible review." Will feels the same way. And Joe says, "Nice movie. Well done. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that." Hey, listen, Dysfunctional Family. I immediately thought of another movie that Florence has been in recently, uh, Fighting with My
Part
Family.
of my family. She's great in that. Yeah.
She's fantastic, and
Mhm.
it's such a familiar setting for her because that too is sort of a daughter dealing with a very dysfunctional household, in a
Yeah.
very unique relationship with a sibling. So that kind of fit perfectly for her. She's already done it once before. This is just an enhanced version of that because instead of like the family being former wrestlers or just loving wrestling, they
Still wrestling,
are.
by the way. I'll note that her mom still wrestles. Paige's mom, by the way.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So
And instead of that, these parents are spies for
yeah.
USSR, so or like super soldiers or whatever they are. So yeah, it's great seeing her in the dynamic again, and I loved it. It's so good. I David I forget his last name. What's his name? The guy that plays Red Guardian.
Harbor.
David
David Harbor.
Harbour. David Harbour is hysterical, and he can be so cheesy and still be hilarious, and it still feel genuine. Like he can. There's not a lot of people that can pull that off. David can pull it off. I enjoyed his performance probably the most out of everybody, but I also love Florence in this one. And Scarlett, she doesn't need to do a whole lot. We know her. We just need to see her bouncing off with these other supporting characters, and it's a fantastic cast around her. So I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. We'll get into our ratings in a little bit, but I just want to say um, I freaking enjoyed this movie a lot more than I expected to. I thought we'd get a pretty average Marvel film, and instead, I think we got one of the best written ones.
Yeah, and I just want to also say thank you for allowing me to go and view the movie with you and your family. I got to meet the Kalunga fans, the family,
That's
the
only
whole
like ten
clan.
percent. That's only like 10%.
I got to. I felt like I was meeting the whole clan. There were a lot of them, so I was like, "Whoa!"
You're at a quinceanera or
I
what?
was at a Mexican quinceañera, but it was great to meet your family, and watch the film. So thanks.
Hey, no problem, man. Yeah, we had a little bit of a cast sort of screening for ourselves, and JC would have been there, except he was on the beach. I don't blame him for not being there.
Yeah.
But no, we had a great time, and everybody was sort of having the same reaction in our theater, right? Everybody was just like either laughing their ass off or making the groans and the oofs every time somebody like got thrown into a window or ran into a car or whatever. So good, so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things I wanted to circle back to real quick that we didn't talk about is when Natasha, spoiler alert here, if you haven't seen Avengers
If you don't know by
Endgame,
now, yeah.
yeah,
Spoiler alert.
she perishes, she sacrifices herself for the Soul Stone. We never got to see what happened to her body. There was never a funeral there was a funeral for one Tony Stark. There was never a funeral for Natasha. There was nothing implied or what happened to her body afterwards. Was it taken back? We don't know. And I think
Yeah.
what this movie did is really give her that closure, the character that closure, where at the very end, if you didn't stay for the end credit scene, um, you get to see the sister Yelena going to visit Natasha's grave, and you can see that she is remembered. She's not forgotten. We don't know if there's a body buried in the ground or not. We don't know. Maybe Captain America went back and you know got the body because he's a soldier, and that would really irritate him that you didn't bring a soldier back. So who knows? Maybe he went, to what's the name of that place, Volomir or whatever, to
Vormir.
Vormir to go and recover the body and bring her home, so she could have some closure with her for her family. But it was good to see that people remembered her. You looked at the grave and you could see the little mementos and pictures and little stuffed animals and flowers and everything that people were coming to give their respects to her. So I thought that was very touching and a great way to end uh, that character's arc.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Um, you talked about Tony Stark having a funeral and her not. It's one of those things where like, she never really needed anything like that, right? She really was the type of character to just get the work done, doesn't need the praise, accolades, almost not even the respect for it, just getting the job done. And this helped fill in a lot of gaps about her character by going through this past and talking about other movies, having read in her ledger and all this stuff. I enjoyed seeing these moments where she's vulnerable or she has such regret from past actions. It's a great exploration of this character, and it's such a dark story, right?
Mhm.
Because it
It's the little
it
girls
at
getting
first
kidnapped.
Yeah.
That's the darkest thing for me as a
that's
father. Yeah.
absolutely, and that was supposed to be like as dark as I thought it would get, but then they start dropping out other details like, oh, only 1 in 20 actually survive
Mhm.
the training. It's like, oh my god, this is really
Yeah.
dark for a
Yeah.
Marvel movie, especially. Are you sure you're not in the DC universe?
You know,
Or as
But
Dark
and they
yeah,
gave
Materials for
us.
that matter.
I think this film gave us one of the most powerful weapons in the MCU, and that was the ability to control somebody else via chemicals. You
Yeah,
know, mind control. That's a very
sure.
powerful weapon to have. You know, so
yeah, man.
who's to say that this is the last time that we'll see this utilized? Maybe it could be utilized somewhere else down the line by another villain or someone. You know?
They're
Very
they're
possible.
definitely plotting future spin-offs, right? We'll talk about the end credits later on. But yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I know that people are talking about the Taskmaster, and some people are not okay with it, and then there are many who are okay with it. And I'm gonna just say that I am the person in the latter, that I am okay with how they did the Taskmaster reveal, and not because it was predictable or a huge surprise, but I think it does enhance the story of our villain who is forget his name, Draco.
Dreykov, yeah.
Yeah, Dreykov. Um, you see this guy who he's already a scumbag because he's putting all these innocent children through this, deadly training program, which most of them, 95% of them, don't make it even out. But to think that he couldn't stoop any lower, but now he's actually putting his own flesh and blood and controlling her to do things she doesn't want to do, to make her this monster, to make her this assassin,
Yeah.
against her will, because this is none of this is her choosing by any means. So for me, it's a great jaw dropping moment, not because it was a woman or it wasn't who we expected it to be, but because it was the daughter of our villain, and what kind of father would ever put their own child through something like that? Like, that's a monstrosity of a person who's willing to do that. And so for me, it helped enhance that villain character even just a little bit more, by putting that twist in there that she's his flesh and blood.
Yeah.
But that also sets up for Natasha that hard decision she had to make. Uh, there's going to be innocent bystanders when they try to kill him the first time. They confirm he was in the building, but he's there with his daughter. She's saying, "Yeah, we're clear to bomb the building to kill an innocent girl." Obviously, we know she doesn't die at that point, but that was one of the moral dilemmas that Natasha herself had to make, and one of those things she regrets.
Yeah. Because she wanted
Absolutely.
out. She wanted out, and this was her. I
This was her
guess her
way out.
proving herself. You know, to
Yeah.
shield. Yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe
Yeah.
that's the reason why she fights so hard for everybody else, and she always thinks about everyone else before herself. She just kind of dives into the situation because she's trying to make amends for her past. You know?
Yeah. It makes sense. Um, she couldn't protect her little sister all those years.
Yeah.
That she thought she could. So, uh, as for Yelena, mentioning the end credits, I was somewhat surprised to say she's. I mean, we thought they're setting her up to be the next Black Widow, and obviously there might be some arc in a future movie where she might turn good and be part of the Avengers. But to have a little switcheroo on us that she's now working for God, I forget her full name, but Elaine. What is it? Valentina, as basically one of Valentina's assassins, and as we know now from Falcon and Winter Soldier, Valentina's putting a lot of them together. Just to have Yelena being a part of that group, and could be like basically the next set of villains, at least for certain films. I thought that was interesting. So,
Yeah. We're coming up against the clock here, so we're gonna have to give our reviews because I gotta
yeah.
be talking with one of my buddies from Japan. So it's
Oh yeah.
early
Japan
morning
can
over
wait,
there.
Joe.
He's going to be dialing
I'm
in here
sure.
pretty soon. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh gosh. All
Yeah.
right. Well, yeah. Let's go around. You know what to do. JC, give us your Geekcast rating for Black Widow.
Very happy to see Natasha get her last hurrah. Uh, I had a lot of fun with the movie. Close quarter combat was amazing. I love that close quarter stuff, and to think most of this fighting was between characters that don't have superpowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 4.5 out of 5 for me. This was a lot of fun. I really
Ooh.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
All right. All right. All
All
right.
right.
Joe, can't be any worse than Space Jam. What is your
Jeez.
Geekcast rating, sir?
I'm going to give this film a solid 4. You know, I think they could have
All
done a
right.
little bit more for me to get that half a star, but it was a very solid film. I enjoyed it from the beginning to the end, so I'm going to give it a solid 4.
Very nice, sir. Very nice. And I'm actually gonna mirror exactly what JC said. I had that mindset after I watched the first time, and I haven't found a lot of reasons to stray away from it. So it's a 4.5 for me too. One thing I did not mention was that I was immediately engaged with the storyline because these were Russian spies implanted in the U.S.
In the
And if
90s.
anybody
Yeah.
80s in the 80s.
Oh, 80s. Yeah. Excuse me.
If anybody is a fan of the Americans, then this fits right up your alley because these are all true stories. This really happened. The espionage war to the U.S. and Russia were doing these type of things. They planted
Yeah.
fake families in order to um, get within government positions, and that's how wars were fought behind the scenes in the shadows. So the Americans is all about a Russian spy family, covertly operating in the U.S. and they were assassins. They were getting intel. They were doing all the above. So if that interests you at all, go watch The Americans with Matthew Reese and Kerry Russell. Fantastic show, one of my favorites. So I was immediately engaged with the story because they were using these very real type events and topics in our nation's history. So yeah, that was it. Just I was like, oh my god, this is just like The Americans. Fantastic. Choreography, action, story, and above all else, the humor. The humor was fantastic. The banter, loved it all. 4.5 for me as well. And I can do that in my head. I think JC can too. 4.25 is
4.33.
our. Damn it, 4.33 is our
our.
overall Geekcast rating. Not too shabby, as I always say. Yeah, can't wait for more. We could probably talk about this movie a lot more, especially whenever Jericho gets around to watching it. But we want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you thought about either movie, Space Jam: A New Legacy, or Black Widow. We want to hear from you. You can send us a message on Facebook just by clicking the send message button, or you can send us an email on the contact page of our website at www.countdownspodcast.com. We have a lot of great things coming up. Masters of the Universe starts on Netflix this week. That's going to be incredible. It's an anime written by Kevin Smith, all about He-Man and the gang. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be incredible. So we'll be talking about that next week, and we're also going to be talking about Celebrity Fan Fest because it's not this weekend, but it starts next weekend, July 31st, and runs through August 8th. And it has one of the best convention lineups you'll find anywhere in the country, and we can't wait for it. We're going to be in attendance, and we'll be talking more and more about the panels and everything else you need to know leading up to Celebrity Fan Fest, which is July 31st through August 8th, and it will be held on the grounds of our Six Flags theme park, Pista, Texas, in San Antonio, Texas. For the Geekcast, my name is Steady. With me on this episode is Man, Myth, and Legend. You know, man, as JC.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Check out the WrestleCast this week. We're going to be recapping a fun weekend of wrestling, Slammiversary and Money in the Bank. And we mentioned Fighting with My Family 2 years ago when that movie came out. Tina and I actually did a joint movie review with Ryan Angelo from Alamo City Movie Talk. It's on the Countdown City Geeks. Just scroll back a couple of years. But we did a movie review of Fighting My Family. So if you do ever get to watch that, go check it out. Check out our review on that, too. So.
Absolutely. We also got the man behind the magic, the one and only Joe Garcia.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Like always, thanks for the comments and interacting with us. Greatly appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe and share and like this video. And that's how we grow the Countdown City Geekcast. And as always, appreciate the support.
Absolutely do. Have a great night, everybody. Talk to y'all next week.